So, let's talk about lefties and their hypocrisy, because recently we've seen a lot of left-wing, woke, politically correct virtue signalers, but also certain woke capitalist companies and brands going out there and exposing their own hypocrisy. So in this video we're going to talk about certain companies, Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, but let's start with this guy, Ed Davey. Apparently he is still the acting leader of the Liberal Democrats. Yeah, and apparently the Liberal Democrats were a political party at one point, and yeah, so the Lib Dems still exist. Apparently they still have a leader, kind of, Ed Davey. It's not really elected because their former leader, Jo Swinson, lost her seat in the election. You know, she was supposed to be the future Prime Minister. So what happened was, yesterday was 4th of July, and pubs and everything reopened in Britain. Everybody went out there, had a great time. I'm definitely not hungover today in this video. One of these people was actually Nigel Farage. So Nigel was in America about 2 weeks ago, and we have this new rule, the quarantine for 14 days. You have to when you come back to the UK, and so yesterday he went out to drink, and he posted a picture of himself. People kicked off. So Ed Davey complained. Firstly, Nigel tweeted, "To all those screaming and shouting about me going to the pub, I have been back from the US for 2 weeks and I have been tested. The result was negative. Sorry to disappoint you. Cheers." Now the issue is that, yes, we counted. Technically speaking, Nigel self-isolated for 13 days, not 14 days. But he did get a test and he's fine. It's negative. So he's clean and safe. For 1 day, 1 day, people like Ed Davey have decided to kick off because Nigel Farage is now a huge risk when it comes to public health. Look at this. So Ed Davey, acting leader of the Lib Dems, have said that there are clearly serious questions to answer for Nigel Farage. It is clear from his social media posts that he was in America on June 20th, and he was pictured at a Trump rally that evening. Given the current requirements for visitors returning to the UK to isolate for 14 full days on their return, Nigel Farage appears to be in violation of the quarantine. It is the responsibility of everyone to take the lockdown requirements seriously in order to stop the spread of the virus. By choosing to go to the pub when it appears that he should have been staying at home, Mr. Farage is showing a So this is the thing. Where was Ed Davey? Yes, where were you, Ed Davey, last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when your other left-wing friends were, marching on the streets with their peaceful march? Wasn't that risk to public health? Didn't hear you complain about those guys. Didn't hear you complain about the idiots who are going down there to bring down statues. Because that's fine. You can have mass gatherings if you're bringing down statues. But one individual who has been isolating for 13 days, not 14, but decided to get a test, and the test is negative. This is just pedantic. I don't understand what's the problem here. Are you saying genuinely, these people saying, that throughout this whole process, since the lockdown, intentionally or unintentionally, they didn't break any tiny rule? Are you kidding me? It's almost impossible in a society to actually completely, not accidentally doing something that's a bit kind of not going with the line. But this is the thing. So Nigel Farage, who came back, so when he was asked whether the test meant he was entitled to end his quarantine early, he said, "Well, I can't do a Nigel voice. Well, you make your own mind up on that." Having been told about the complaint to the Kent police by Mr. Davey, he replied, "Sad Ed Davey needs to get a life." I am with Nigel on this. Ed Davey, please get a life. But he's not the only one, because, okay, this whole thing that started with statues and these cultural Marxists and communists going out there on the streets, initially, all these woke capitalist brands like Netflix, like the BBC, like the Premier League, decided to support them, decided to, without doing their own research, they were so afraid of the public mood, because they thought that everybody in every country is supporting this idiocy of a movement. So they all went woke. You had the Premier League, yeah, you had the BBC, you had Netflix removing content. Now they've all changed their mind. They're all making a U-turn. Premier League have now released a statement saying, "Oh, for the record, we're not actually supporting the organization. We're just supporting equality and fairness and justice and the movement and the cause, blah blah blah." The BBC have also decided to step away from the culture of Marxists. And Keir Starmer is a good one. Keir Starmer he literally kneeled in his office for some reason, and then a few days later he came out when he found out something that we already knew with this whole defund the police campaign and the pledge. He was like, well, I'm still a leader of a mainstream political party, I can't really support this. So he came out and condemned it and said, no, defunding the police and bringing down statues are bad, guys. This is bad. And then there was another problem for him, because then he had the lefties attacking him, saying, "You're betraying the cause. You're white male privilege, guys." And so he's now come back again, like literally a couple of days ago, made another U-turn. So it's now an O-turn. He's gone back to his original. So he's now supporting them again. Seriously, what is wrong with these people? There's flip-flopping with people like Keir Starmer, these so-called centrists. That's the problem. Make up your mind. Whatever it is, I don't care. We'll either support it or criticize it. Stop being stupid. But the counterculture when it comes to these battles is actually happening already. And whether you have politicians or governments actually supporting it or condemning it doesn't really matter, because people out there, we still live in a free society. When it comes to these brands and companies, like what happened with Gillette a year ago, 2 years ago, they did this woke advert and they lost a lot of revenue. Netflix will lose a lot of revenue. A lot of people are not watching the Premier League, they're just checking the scores. The BBC are losing a lot of customers. So, supply and demand, the free market always works. So, and speaking of the government and establishment, we have these guys. Seriously, Public Health England. In the words of Donald Trump, that's another beauty. So this organization, it has been very, very destructive when it comes to public health, because they've been supposed to be in charge of the testing stuff, the PPEs with the lockdown, and also previously as well. We're going to talk about that. And this is the problem with centralizing decisions when it comes to anything, especially health. Now they're talking about actually abolishing it. So Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings, the whole point of this Whitehall reform is to drain the swamp. So the next target is now Public Health England. Public Health England was criticised recently for refusing to offer help, refusing to get help from universities and private companies to carry out tests, when you have countries like Germany and others who did decide to get the private sector involved to help, and they were more efficient and it worked. Whereas these guys say, no, we're going to do everything in-house. How did that go, guys? Whether it was the PPE or testing or anything else. And on last Tuesday, the agency was at the head of a painful public row after the government ordered the localized lockdown of Leicester, because they don't know how to do anything. And the issue we have is that this whole thing was created by this guy, Jeremy Hunt, another big government nanny state, so-called centrist or moderate. So he created this. So this organization is not that old. It's only been happening since I think 2012 or 11. And this has to go now because it's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources, and we could do things more efficiently. Former Conservative Health Minister has told The Telegraph that I think Public Health England is destined for the chop. And the main issue is why we didn't ramp up testing sooner. The former Conservative leader, Ian Duncan Smith, also added that he would abolish the PHE tomorrow because he has made decisions with puzzled people. And yeah, this has to go, because it makes absolutely no sense that we have this centralized body with no accountability in that sense. It's an executive agency, essentially, of the part of the Department of Health and Social Care. We have the Department for Actual Health, then you have the NHS, then you have Public Health England. You've got three different bodies looking after our health, and the quality of outcome in this country is absolutely terrible. They are letting people down, and the only time that they did something good was recently because of this lockdown stuff and everything. It's only because of the individual healthcare workers doctors and nurses who decided to work even harder and put a lot of effort to make it work. Because the system is the problem. The structure is the problem, not the individual doctors and nurses in that sense. The system has failed everybody, including the healthcare workers. So if it weren't for doctors and nurses and everybody else working even harder than before during lockdown, this would have been absolutely chaotic, this whole situation. Now, Boris Johnson earlier hinted that the PHE's existence might be under threat when he told the 1922 committee of Tory MPs in Parliament back in May that he was planning a review of a number of institutions to drain the swamp. So hopefully this is happening. The other thing that you need to know about this organization, this group, is they're in charge of nanny state. They come up with random ideas to look after our health because we're too stupid to decide as adults in this country, as educated adults. They, for example, propose to change the pizza sizes and the number of toppings you have on a pizza. So, it's like with old Cadbury chocolate bars where they're making them smaller and smaller. What happens is people who want to still do it, if the large pizza is now small, they're just going to buy 2 small pizzas, which will be large again. And this is absolute idiocy. Stop it. Drain the swamp right now. And also, while we're at it, get rid of the BBC because that's also a waste of money. And on that note, we still have a few days left to go. Get your t-shirts. Defund the BBC. If this is a definition of defund, means cancelling your TV license and watching my Tousi instead. The link is in the description. Check it out. We have a few days left until we finish this. And obviously, we have this media campaign that we have started on this channel with obviously the likes of Mike Graham from Talk Radio, Douglas Carswell, and a number of others for months to encourage people to stand up to the BBC and cancel your TV license. You don't need that anymore. And we need to get the government to decriminalize this whole situation and then make it private. Either subscription-based model or something else, or just put ads. I don't know. This could be a discussion and a debate that people could have in the future. You just need to get rid of the license fee. This is a tax on ordinary people. So get your t-shirts. Also, don't forget to become a member of the channel. The link again is in the description. We were supposed to have for the members our weekly video podcast with Andre Walker, the contributor that we have on this channel. Unfortunately, I don't know if he'll be happy for me to say this. I have a feeling he's too hungover from yesterday. So unfortunately, it's not happening tonight, but hopefully like tomorrow or Tuesday, I'll be posting the video podcast with Andre. As usual, I'm Maya Tousi, and I will see you guys tomorrow with a new video.